Keep them coming. Keep them coming. The hour of convening has arrived, and the Senate will now come to order. This time I would ask that all unauthorized persons exit our beautiful chamber. Chair would like to recognize the distinguished, already ready to go, Rules Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. President. It's a dreary day outside the Capitol. In this Capitol, in the building itself, the men and women here are ready to go to battle for their constituents, and I'm just proud to be a part of their team. A moment in time. In 1936, a great athlete from Georgia, Jim Brown, was born at St. Simon's Island. And later went to Syracuse University. Brown excelled in 5 sports. I think the senator from the 56 sport was like badminton, but he wasn't any good at that one. The NFL, Cleveland Browns, drafted him in 1957. He led league rushing 8 out of 9 seasons, breaking records as fast as he breaking down defenses in Georgia history. He's also a pretty good actor, and we saw him in The Dirty Dozen, where the senator from the 15th really excels a lot. Mr. President, the journal's been read and found to be correct.
All that talk about football reminds me of those stories you often tell about your days as a pulling guard in high school, that tenacity and fight that you had. Is there any film that exists of you in your high school football days? He never surprises me. Is there objection to the reading of the journal, dispensing of the reading of the journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Are there any motions to reconsider? Are there any motions to reconsider? There is a motion to reconsider from the senator from the 26th. Senator from the Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption to Senate Bill 454?
Senate Bill 454, a bill by Senators Kennedy of the 18th, a bill to be entitled an Act to amend an Act establishing the Board of Public Education for Bibb County, approved August 23, 1872, as amended, so as to change the description of the education districts and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District, Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 26th has moved that the Senate reconsider its actions in passing Senate Bill 454 yesterday. Is there objection? Is there objection? There is objection. The chair now recognizes the senator from the 26th to speak to his motion to reconsider. Chair recognizes the senator from the 26th to speak to his motion to reconsider. As a reminder, there's 3 minutes assigned to each side of this debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was trying to get me and my colleague not to have a floor fight on local legislation. The Bibb County Board of Education on Tuesday passed an official plan on Plan 2. That is not the plan that was introduced. So I was hoping that we could amicably solve it, since the only election we have with the board is at-large position, no district seats. It's a 2-year session. We can pass it next year.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th. As a reminder, there's 3 minutes.
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. President. The bill that we've got for the Bibb County Board of Education maps is what they had sent to me. They worked out. It's what they wanted, and is what we filed timely. The problem is, as I told you all 2 days ago when we were here together, and I think the senator from the 26th, in fact, does not dispute this and agrees with me. We are in agreement that this is way late. The board met Tuesday night when we have the deadlines that we've had on it. I assume most of you guys probably sent the same letter that all of us senators sent to our local delegations back in December, giving them the deadlines. I'll further say that when the senator from the 26th tells you what he's been told by the folks back home, I don't dispute that. But I will tell you, I've talked to all the folks back home and gotten a very different story with regard to what they wanted. So at this point, I'd ask you to vote down the motion for reconsideration. We need to get the bill moving, just like all of us that need to get the work done for our folks back home to get the local legislation finished. Thank you. With that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. The senator from the 26th has moved that the Senate reconsider its actions in passing Senate Bill 454. All those in favor of reconsideration, vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. This is a vote for reconsideration. On the motion to reconsider, the yeas are 22, the nays are 28, and this motion is lost, and Senate Bill 454 will not be reconsidered. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills or resolutions, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. Mr. Secretary, first reading of Senate bills and resolutions, please.
Senate Bill 517 by Senators Jones of the 25th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated. Senate Bill 518 by Senators Hostetler of the 52nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 24 of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to insurance generally.
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 519 by Senators Tippins of the 37th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 18 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to Solicitors General of state courts so as to provide
Government oversight.
Senate Bill 520 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-5-405 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to levy and collection of tax by municipalities.
Finance.
Senate Bill 521 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 31 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to incorporation of municipal.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 523 by Senators Merritt of the 9th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to ethics in government so as to provide that child care and other caregiving services.
Ethics.
Senate Bill 524 by Senators Merritt of the 9th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Department of Economic Development so as to provide for civil penalties and benefit.
Economic development.
Senate Bill 525 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 34 of Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to physicians, assistants, and others.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 526 by Senators Halpern of the 39th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 13 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to excise tax on rooms, lodgings, and accommodations.
Finance.
Senate Bill 527 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to primaries and elections generally so as to provide
Ethics.
Senate Bill 528 by Senators McNeil of the 3rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 38 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to emergency management so as to provide for the inclusion of barbers and cosmetologists as
Government
essential.
oversight.
Senate Bill 529 by Senators Gooch of the 51st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 76 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the expedited franchising of cable and video services.
Regulated industries.
Senate Resolution 505 by Senators Gooch of the 51st and others, a resolution recognizing and commending Douglas R. Hooker and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 506 by Senator Burns of the 23rd and others, a resolution honoring the life and memory of Bobby C. Smith, Jr. and for other purposes. Senate Resolution 507.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
it's on the privilege cover. He doesn't have them marked up. Here. 507, it's right there. 511.
Senate Resolution by Senator Jackson of the 2nd, a resolution recognizing and commending Shauna Marie Hervey and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution by 512 by Senator Jackson of the 2nd, a resolution recognizing and commending Christopher Campbell and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 519 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a resolution honoring the life and memory of Officer Carol Leigh Ledford and dedicating an intersection in her memory and for other purposes.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 520 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a resolution honoring the life of Representative Carlton H. Cowell and dedicating an intersection in his memory and for other purposes.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 521 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a resolution recognizing Mr. Mike Berg and dedicating an intersection in his honor and for other purposes.
Transportation.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, please.
Is your copy marked up?
House Bill 893 by Representatives Nix of the 69th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 3 of Chapter 8 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to hazardous site response.
Natural resources.
House Bill 969 by Representative Smith of the 18th, Willie, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 13 of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to insurance holding company schemes so as to update the
Insurance
regulation.
and labor.
House Bill 1021 by Representatives Lumsden of the 12th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 33-28-3 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to standard non-forfeiture provisions for individual deferred annuities.
Insurance and labor.
House Bill 1044 by Representatives Perkle of the 155th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 62 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to development authorities so as to provide for the
Economic development.
House Bill 1147 by Representatives Rhodes of the 120th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 27 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to wildlife generally so as to authorize the hunting and trapping of raccoons and opossum year-round to provide for related
Natural
matters.
resources.
House Bill 1223 by Representatives Martin of the 49th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-8-3 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to exemptions from sales and use tax so as to extend the sunset date.
Finance.
House Bill 1275 by Representatives Rich of the 97th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 32 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to municipal courts generally.
Judiciary.
House Resolution 664 by Representatives Green of the 151st and others, a resolution authorizing the release of certain state-owned property located in Chatham County, authorizing
State institutions and property.
House Resolution 683 by Representatives Green of the 151st and others, a resolution authorizing the granting of non-exclusive easements for the construction, installation,
State
operation.
institutions and properties.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read reports of standing committees?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 397, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tippins of the 37th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 359, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 382, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 479, do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 505, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Reapportionment and Districting has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 472, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kennedy of the 18th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utility has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 393, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Calzert of the 46th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Resolution 319, do pass. Senate Resolution 477, do pass. Senate Resolution 479, do pass. Senate Resolution 504, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 1124, do pass. House Bill 1126, do pass. House Bill 1205, do pass. House Bill 1210, do pass. House Bill 1228, do pass. House Bill 1229, do pass. House Bill 1230, do pass. House Bill 1245, do pass. House Bill 1247, do pass. House Bill 1270, do pass. House Bill 1299, do pass. House Bill 311, do pass. House Bill 1313, do pass. House Bill 1315, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 1028, do pass. House Bill 1154, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Transportation has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 1089, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ginn of the 47th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read bills and resolutions for the second time?
Senate Bill 54 by Senator Harbison of the 15th and others. Child custody proceedings, judicial discretion in determining the right of a surviving parent when such surviving parent is criminally charged with the murder or involuntary manslaughter of the other parent. Provide. Senate Bill 395 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th. Mountain Judicial Circuit, 3rd Judge of the Superior Courts. Provide. Senate Bill 449 by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others. education, protection of the fundamental right of parents to direct the upbringing and education of their minor children from undue infringement by a state or local government entity, provide. That completes the order, Mr. President.
All right, it's now time for a morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Welcome back to the leadoff spot. The chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd, y'all.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, y'all. I'd like for unanimous to excuse the following senators from the 46th, the 7th, the 5th, and the 2nd for business outside the Capitol, sir.
Without objection, the senators from the 46th, 7th, 5th, and 2nd are excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 21st.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 25th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 25th is excused. Are there any additional motions to excuse? The chair sees none. The secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. We're ready, Kay. Game time. So, we normally like to keep this under 2 hours. I don't know what your plans are. So we'll, y'all can take a seat, and then I'll introduce Kay to lead us through the pledge and the pledge, and then we'll say this. Yeah, perfect. And then she'll introduce you, and then fire away. All right, it's now time for a morning devotional, and I'd ask that all senators take your seats, cease all audible conversations, and ask our good friends, the doorkeepers, to secure the chamber at this time. It's my honor to recognize the distinguished senator from the 32nd to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and to introduce to us our chaplain of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow senators, please join me as we honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, moderation, and courage. Good morning, fellow senators. You may not know this, but I was raised Southern Baptist, but then I married a Methodist, but I had the honor of visiting my good friend that I'm about to introduce up at Satally Baptist Church in White, Georgia for their recent revival, which was quite inspirational, and I really enjoyed going back to the Baptist faith during that time. Pastor Edmondson graduated from Cherokee High School in Canton, Georgia in 1968 and went straight into the United States Marine Corps. He was honorably discharged in 1974, and he was also a Vietnam veteran. He graduated from Reinhardt University in 1977, attended the Georgia Baptist Education Extension and other Bible classes. He also attended Southeastern Seminary and was licensed in 1983 and ordained in 1986. In his early years, he also worked for the CSX Railroad while the church was growing, and my dad was a railroader also, so we have even that in common as well. Pastor Billy Edmondson's been a pastor for over 40 years. 30 years of that time, he's been the senior pastor at Satally Baptist Church in White, Georgia. He also has worked and helped with the Goshen Valley Boys Ranch. He's married. His wife, Sherry, is sitting over on the side, and he neglected to mention he has 3 kids in his bio. He only mentioned that he has 6 granddaughters. He serves on many boards, the Executive Board for the Georgia Baptist Mission Board, Etowah Baptist Association, the North African Connection, and the Double HH Academy, A Pace of Hope and Healing, the Board of God at Work Ministries, a church in the Philippines, and the Credentials Board for Immacolata EMC, and the Board for the Cowboy Church. Please welcome a true man of God, Pastor Billy.
Thank you so much, and I feel so honored to be here today, and it is such an honor, and to allow me to be chaplain of the day and do your devotional. I find this in 1 Peter 2:9. It says this, "But you're a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possessions, that you may declare the praise of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light." I also find this scripture coming out of Proverbs chapter 11. This is out of the New King James Version. It says, "The generous soul will be made rich, and he who waters will also be watered himself." Simplicity is what you make happen for others, got to make happen for you. I also find on leadership, these verses from John Maxwell. I like, not verses, but some of his quotes. He says, "The best leaders are able to see a vision and then activate it by stepping forward. In addition, you've stepped forward. They're willing to sacrifice to see their vision come to fruition. You've sacrificed. A lot of you, your family, of your talents, of your treasures, of your time, you've sacrificed to be where you are. Finally, they realize the importance of surrounding themselves and the vision with an incredible team. And y'all become a team as you're here. And your staff that works with you has become a team with you. Your voters have become a team with you. And so many people don't jumpstart their life because they don't have anything to jump to. They prod along through life with a little more than survival in mind. Visionaries dare to dream. They peer into the future and generate possibilities in their mind's eyes. You would not be seated where you're seated at today if you didn't have that dream. The other one is right here that I find, I think you may find something you may like out of it, is Maya Angelou made these statements. She said, "I've learned that whatever I decide, I've learned that whenever I decide something with an open heart, I usually make the right decisions." We need to keep our hearts open and our mind open. I've learned that even when I have pains, I don't have to be one. Did y'all get that one? I've learned that when I have pains, I don't have to be a pain. Some people can be a pain. Anyway, I've learned that every day you should reach out and touch someone. People love a warm hug, just a friendly pat on the back. I've learned that I still have a lot to learn. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. People will forget you, but will never forget how you made them feel. I think that's one of the greatest things you can do is realizing that each one of us was created and God gave you special and different talents. And when you meet other people, the way you make them feel. I'm going to share this with you because I'm on up in my years. Y'all can figure that by the bio, I guess. But anyway, I was thinking about it the other day. You kind of get down sometimes. You're thinking, well, life's run along and I'm at this point. But this may help you out. It says an intensive study in the USA found that the most productive age in a human's life is between 60 and 70 years of age. The second most productive stage of a human being is from 70 to 80 years of age. The third most productive stage is from 50 to 60 years of age. And the average age of a Nobel Prize winner is 62 years old. The average age of a president of a prominent company in the world is 63 years. The average age of a pastor of the 100 largest churches in the USA is 71. The average age of the popes is 76. This tells us, in a way, that it has been determined that the best years of your life are between 60 and 80. And a study in the New England Journal of Medicine found that at age 60, you reach the top of your potential and then continues on into your 80s. Therefore, if you are between 60, 70, or 70 and 80, you're in the best and second best level of your life. So if you're older, you may like that. How about that? Let us pray. Let us pray. Father God, we come today. I'm humbled to be here and humbled to stand before these senators today and in this house today, in this Capitol today. Lord, thanking you for the invitation to be here. Miss Kay Kirkpatrick extended to me. But I thank you, Lord, for each member that's here today. I pray, God, that you'll bless their homes, you'll bless their children, you'll bless their grandchildren. Your favor out of heaven will be upon them. You'll give them wisdom beyond their years and peers. I pray, dear Heavenly Father, you will surround them with guardian angels and protect them. I pray, Lord, as they carry out their office, Lord, that they'll carry it out with integrity. But more than that, Lord, we know that a good name is rather be chosen than great riches. But I pray here today, Lord, that the ladies and the men that come to serve here today to make this state a better place to live in, to be a fair place, and also, Lord, that be an honest government. That's what we need. I've been around the world, Lord. I've seen governments that don't even compare to what we have here. But Lord, I thank you for the government. I thank you for Lord, this body today that's come together, and they give of their family, they give of their time, they sacrifice. But Lord, I pray that you would give back to them 100-fold. Your blessings and favor of it. When the road gets long and the hours get long and they get tired trying to be everything to everybody, and they just feel like, Lord, they can't accomplish, Lord, please step in and be there with them. Let them realize, Lord, we need them. Our state needs them. This nation needs leaders. We need good leaders, Lord. Thank you for them. For it's in Christ Jesus' name we pray. Everybody say it. Amen. Amen.
Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes the senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today in honor of Black History Month. And specifically, the folks I want to talk about are the black women attorneys in this state that make up GABWA, which is an incredible organization in terms of the State Bar of Georgia, and with respect to the women attorneys, the service that they provide not only their clients, but to every person in the state of Georgia. They were founded in 1981 by a group of women, and they wanted to focus on women and children's issues, and they wanted to increase black female representation in the judiciary and public offices. And they even wanted to take a proactive stance on political issues. Their ranks include 2 former State Bar presidents, women of color. The first black woman ever to be a State Bar president was Patrice Perkins Hooker in 2015. And the second one is the immediate past president, Dawn Jones. These are incredible women. And every person, every woman who is a member of this organization not only is good at what they do in terms of the work, but they all are about mentoring the next generation of black women attorneys. And they definitely need to be applauded. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th for a point of personal privilege. I didn't see you at your desk. I thought one of your friends had played a trick on you and pushed your button.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, long time ago, I was fortunate enough to be able to convince my high school sweetheart. We were in college at the University of Georgia on February 17th, many moons ago, to run off with me and get married. So today is our anniversary, and I want to say happy anniversary to Adrienne Horn Walker. She's been a wonderful life partner and staunch supporter of me in this endeavor in the legislature. Great mother, a great wife, great daughter-in-law, the love of my life. We have 3 sons, grown sons. They're fine young men, and we have 3 fine daughter-in-laws, and we will be grandparents for the first time in July. So happy anniversary, Adrian. Love you. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the pro tem for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Look at that crowd in the gallery. We want y'all to do the wave up there for us. You mind? No. They're doing the wave. Mr. President, I rise this morning on a very serious and somber note. And I'd like to recognize some young gentlemen that have truly been heroes. They have laid their life on the line. They have demonstrated strength and courage and valor, and they have dedicated their lives to law enforcement. Y'all might have seen in the news in the last few days, last week and a half or so, about an incident in Banks County. 3 Banks County sheriff's deputies were out protecting the public, and they spotted or recognized a car that fit the description of an automobile that was used in a kidnapping. And they went to investigate and see what was going on with this car. And Deputy Dylan Crump, in the early hours of the morning of February 8th, along with Deputies Cale Mathis and Jeffrey Ledford, encountered the suspect and the missing person. The suspect shot Deputy Crump and shot the victim, both of which are recovering nicely, but both of which are struggling. And the bravery of Deputy Crump and the other deputies in Banks County, we can rest easy. And we also know that one more human trafficker has been taken out of business. And we are lucky enough this morning and fortunate enough to have Deputy Crump, Deputy Cale Mathis, Deputy Jeffrey Ledford, and Major Matt Allen in our gallery. And I'd like for them to stand so that we can recognize them. Deputies and Major, thank you very much for being here. Typically, we would have you on the floor for a privilege resolution and be able to recognize you here, but due to COVID restrictions and protocols, we'll ask y'all to remain in the gallery, but we'd love for you to come down and visit with our members. Many of our members want to say hello and want to say thank you. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Thank you, sir. Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to recognize the Georgia Realtors that's in our gallery today. May you please stand. Georgia has 40,000 realtors all over the state, giving people of Georgia the opportunity to buy and afford a home, to make them homeowners. So we want to thank the realtors for all the good work they do for the people of this great state. But now, as a moment in Black history, the Coastal Georgia Realtors installed their officers and directors for 2022 at the annual luncheon held on December 16th, 2021 at the Marriott Riverfront. Over 200 members in attendance for this historical event that installed Rodney Rawls as the first African-American president of the Coastal Georgia Realtors. Rodney Rawls is a broker owner of Rawls Realty and has been licensed 25 years. He is the current chairman of the Sales and Marketing Council of the Home Builders Association of Greater Savannah for the 2nd year. Rawls is known as a people's champ. He continued to produce and a recipient of many awards locally and on the state level. Community service is his calling card. Love is his passion. Ronnie Rawls is a great Georgian and a great American. Most recently, he's been recognized as 2022 Outstanding Georgia Citizen and now the new recipient of the Senate Goodwill Ambassador. This day, a moment in modern history, Ronnie Rawls, and he's with us today. On my right, Mr. Rawls, thank you for being with us today.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd, our distinguished rules chairman, for a point of personal privilege.
Well, kind of. Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great day here at the Capitol, and I'm honored to have such a great team here. Leadership, Chattooga County, if you'd stand and say hello. Cindy McGraw is leading them, as well as Chattooga County Soul Commissioner Blake Ellsbury. Please give them a hand. Thanks for being here today.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. This past weekend, over 100 million Americans watched as 70,000 of our rich and famous elites gathered for a football game with hardly a mask in sight. The next morning, though, millions of children, almost all of whom are at lower risk for serious infection from COVID-19, donned their masks to attend schools. I believe this was a tipping point, and we are well on our way to seeing mask mandates end in our schools, and it's about time. We all knew politicians were already mandating masks for children, while they themselves, who are more at risk, were removing them to attend parties and take photos with celebrities. But this brazen display of freedom and joy, something that I support, by the way, made it clear that the mask craziness is over for the elites, and it's past time for it to end for our children. But what about the science? A process that used to encourage testing hypotheses, but devolved during this pandemic to something unrecognizable. Namely, the science became doing what politicians and bureaucrats told us to do without ever testing the hypothesis. So let's talk about the science. The CDC tells us that children who are over 2 should be masked. The WHO, however, does not recommend masking children under 6. The European Center for Disease Prevention and Control recommends against masking elementary school children. Sounds inconsistent. Sounds like settled science? Not really. Perhaps the virus is different in Europe. Perhaps the transmission rate is different in the inside of a European school building than an American school building. Or maybe, just maybe, our political class has taken a far too aggressive stance in masking children in schools in America. As these mask mandates end, they're simply falling in line with the science that has been there for all to see. Mask mandates for children fly in the face of all the data that we know to be true about COVID-19 in children. Dr. Vinjay Prasad, an associate professor of epidemiology and biostatistics at the University of California, says, quote, "Most of the masks worn by most kids for most of the pandemic have likely done nothing to change the velocity or trajectory of the virus," end quote. Dr. Chad Roy, Tulane School of Medicine, quote, "All this song and dance of wearing cloth masks with some presumption that you're being protected from ambient virus is completely and positively 100% counter to how masks and respirators work," unquote. And an article co-written by Marjorie Smelkinson from the NIH says, quote, "Over the last 21 months, slowly and with much resistance, the layers of mythology around COVID-19 mitigation in schools has been peeled away, each time without producing the much ballyhooed increases in COVID-19. Schools did not become hotspots when they reopened, nor when they reduced physical distancing, nor when they eliminated deep cleaning protocols. These layers were peeled away because the evidence supporting them was weak, and they all had substantial downsides to children's education and health," unquote. Even CNN medical analyst Leana Wen said, quote, "Cloth masks are little more than facial decoration." I want to repeat that. She said that cloth masks are little more than facial decoration, unquote. What do we know about children in COVID-19? 0.03%, so 0.003% of children who test positive of COVID die of COVID. Of the COVID deaths in America, 1/100% occurred in those from 0 to 17 years old. At the end of 2021, we had tragically lost about 800,000 Americans to COVID, or with COVID. Of those 800,000, 535 were children between the ages of 5 and 17. So one can imagine the outrage when politicians force masks on children only to ignore the rules for themselves. Obviously, we would all acknowledge that each death is tragic. Each one of these people is a brother, mother, daughter, and son. When making public policy, however, we have to remove emotion and deal with reality. The reality is that everyday life is full of calculated risk. So how do COVID deaths in children compare to other deaths? In 2021, the total death count in America for COVID was less than we lose every year for drowning. It was half of what we lose every year to the flu, and it was 1/6 of what we lose every year to car accidents. The CNN medical analyst famously informed us recently that, quote, "the science has changed." This is a curious statement, but whatever we need to tell ourselves to justify the end of ending the mask mandates, is okay with me. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to give a shout out to some folks from Paulding County here, also from Leadership Paulding that are visiting with us today. They have not made it over to the Capitol. But just want to thank the leaders and the individuals who have made the time to come down here to their state capitol and taking the time to learn about leadership and the process and representing our community back in Paulding County and Dallas, Georgia, and Hiram, Georgia. So with that, Mr. President, I yield the will. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 13th for a very special point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello, colleagues. Today I got a great, in my opinion, living black history. We always talk about Black History Month, but usually the people we talk about are no longer with us. Today we're going to talk about somebody who's still with us, that's made history in every form of the word. Today I'm going to tell you about a lady by the name of Miss Lucille Denard Shazer. And the Lieutenant Governor has been so gracious to allow to put her picture up on the board and tell you why our picture's up on the board. Remember, when I tell you this story, tomorrow is her birthday, okay? She was born a sharecropper in Worth County, Georgia in 1913. Her mother died when she was a toddler. Her surrogate mother was a great aunt who raised her and her father, Jake. It was a common practice in those days when children were born on farms, they performed various chores. Miss Lucille has picked cotton for days. She has harvested peanuts by stacking and shaking. I doubt anybody in the chamber knows what stacking and shaking peanuts mean. Very few of you. She's cropped tobacco, and she's plowed a mule many days. During her youth and her young adulthood, she worked at the Crisp County peanut factories, and later in life, she worked at the Vienna pepper plant in our adjacent Dooley County. She married Mr. Eddie C. Shazer, and then she became owner of Eddie's barbecue stand that she ran for years and years and years. Lucille lived on the farm. She performed many household duties, including drawing water from an artesian well. She chopped wood, she picked fruit, she picked vegetables, she put them up vegetables, she washed and ironed clothes, and she cooks meals all the time. She worked as a domestic housekeeper in the remaining part of her days before she retired, and she also worked at one of the local nursing homes. She has a servant's heart, and she is built on years of going to Sunday school, teaching Vacation Bible School. She is a deaconess. She is the president of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church Mission Auxiliary, and she has earned the title of Mother of the Church. She is still very active. And before I tell you, say happy birthday to her, her son last month turned 90 years old. Miss Lucille is 109 years old tomorrow, and I'd like for this body just to simply say happy birthday and God bless you, if you will. Happy birthday and God bless you. Thank you, Mr. President.
You forgot one important fact. She graduated from high school with the senator from the 37th.
I certainly did. I apologize. With that, I yield the will.
I had to. Come on. I know you've got thick skin. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? You have a consent calendar of local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed to any bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar? Chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. The questions on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar, the yeas are 46 and nays are 0, and the bills having received the requisite constitutional majority are therefore passed. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that the bills that were passed on the local consent calendar be immediately transmitted to the House.
The majority leader has asked for unanimous consent that the bills that were just passed on the local consent calendar be immediately transmitted to the House. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and they are immediately transmitted. For what purpose does the senator from the 3rd rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that Senate Rule 4-29B be suspended to allow for SB 360 to be moved to the top of the rules calendar and become the first bill of the 3rd read.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 360, a bill by Senators McNeil of the 3rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 165102 of the OCGA relating to exploitation and intimidation of disabled adults, eldered persons, and residents, and obstruction of investigation so as to enact Colton's Law to provide a short title and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 3rd has asked for unanimous consent for the Senate rules to be suspended to allow Senate Bill 360 to be moved to the top of today's rules calendar. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is moved to the top of the rules calendar. We are now going to move on to the rules calendar. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the measure? Senate Bill 360.
Senate Bill 360, a bill by Senators McNeil of the 3rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 165102 of the OCGA relating to exploitation and intimidation of disabled adults, elder persons, and residents, and obstruction of investigation so as to enact Colton's Law and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senate Judiciary offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 360, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 5 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to cruelty to children so as to enact Colton's Law and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the coast, the senator from the 3rd, to present Senate Bill 360.
Good morning. This bill will give stricter punishment for those who abuse disabled minor children. A disabled child in my district who had a trach and a feeding tube and was nonverbal was hit over and over again, leaving bruises on his face. This was done by the mother's boyfriend. She had him arrested, and he went to jail, but he didn't spend one night there. I spoke with our local DFACs, and they were not surprised. They said it happens all the time. We cannot allow our disabled children, who most of them cannot speak for themselves, to be abused. It is an unspeakable offense to mentally or physically abuse anyone, but to abuse a disabled child is the worst of the worst. Any questions for me?
Oh, you've got a lot.
Oh, no, really?
No, I'm kidding. You have no questions.
Don't do that to me again.
The senator yields the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 360? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 331?
Senate Bill 331, a bill by Senator Albers of the 56th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 34 of the OCGA relating to minimum wage law so as to prohibit the regulation of employee work hours, scheduling, and output by local governmental entities to provide for exceptions and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 331, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 34 of the OCGA relating to minimum wage law so as to prohibit the regulation of employee work hours, scheduling, and output by local government entities to provide for exceptions and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to present Senate Bill 331.
Thank you, Mr. President. My fellow senators, I'm proud to present Senate Bill 331, Protecting Georgia Businesses and Workers Act, to you today. As we all know, Georgia is the #1 place to do business for 8 years in a row, and that is a record. That is thanks to Governor Brian Kemp, all of us in this chamber, and our friends across the hall who created the climate so the business owners and leaders could create those jobs and the Georgia workforce could fulfill them. This didn't happen by accident. We have been very diligent working at this through laws and regulations over the years. Let me give you a couple numbers that could be alarming, though. 6.2%, 6.3%, and 6.5%. That's the unemployment rate for New York, New Jersey, and California. That's a recession-level unemployment. And now we'll give you Georgia's 2.6%. The greatest as ever measured since the history of us tracking unemployment. 2.6% shows us as the leader of all the top 10 largest states and one of the best in the nation. In Georgia, we've taken a very different approach. I want to thank those who have been involved in creating this bill, specifically ACCG and GMA, who gave us valuable input, and we made some additions so they'd be comfortable with this legislation. And on your desk, you've got numerous letters in support from the NFIB, from our small businesses, the Metro Atlanta, as well as Georgia Chamber of Commerce, the Georgia Restaurant Association, the Georgia Hotel and Lodging Association, as well as the American Hotel and Lodging Association. This bill simply addresses a growing movement and concern where local governments in over 10 states already have begun to implement their own labor laws governing private business. We want to make sure everyone stays in their lane, and there's a reason why we have levels of government from federal, state, school, county, and city. The bill is fairly straightforward. What it does not do is cause any type of an issue with a city or county having their own folks who work for them fall under their own policies and procedures, nor does it in any way interfere with a private contract. That is a summary of the bill, and while the bill is short in pages, it is very impactful to make sure we are taking care of our businesses and our workers to continue to have Georgia the best place to work, live, play, and raise a family. Mr. President, I would yield for questions.
It doesn't appear as though you have any questions.
Thank you. I will yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 331? The chair sees none. Well, chair recognizes the senator from the 36th, caught the buzzer by a hair, to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise to raise some very serious questions around Senate Bill 331. First of all, it is a preemption bill. That is to say, it supersedes anything that anyone could, efforts that they could attempt to make locally in a political subdivision of the state. Now, we hear it often touted how Georgia is the #1 state to do business in. Well, Oxfam America ranked Georgia 48th in a list of best states to work. And one element of the ranking is whether or not states allow local governments to pass worker protection policies. Why on earth would we need worker protection policies? Because the federal protections don't address several aspects of the performance metrics that these mega corporations are pushing on the backs of workers. And it's, don't take my word, it's all over the news, it's studied, the data's there, and you hear the real world reports from people in the trenches that are laboring for an hourly wage and are and good people, as hard as it may be to believe, it sounds like something out of the couple of centuries ago. People are actually so short on time and so pressed on their performance metrics that they don't have time to excuse themselves for a bathroom break. And what happens when that's the case? Not good things. Are we really going to stay back in the time where, or let these large corporations who are extracting more and more profit out of the workforce, are we really going to let them ride the backs of working people to that extent, to where you cannot even access a bathroom break without putting your job in jeopardy? It's wrong-headed. It's not right. It stands in the way of local governments establishing limits on and output performance metrics. And I say to you, we offer all of these wonderful packages for a company to come to our state. You know, we're just awash in taxpayer dollars that we provide to them to maybe grade their property, give them a tax break. There's a myriad of ways, and you could look at any of the recent deals that have been struck with bringing companies here, and they're very rich and sweet packages. Well, don't you think we have a little bit of authority to ask them to provide some basic things for their workforce? These are our families. These are our Georgia families that we're talking about here. These are not faceless, anonymous drones or robots working in these places. These are people that actually need to use the restroom. And we have corporations that are running their operations in ways that make that difficult. And here we have really, we have shortages in our workforce. It would seem to me wise to be able to put in some standards when a company comes in here and sets up an operation and puts Georgia workers to work. Now you say, oh, they're putting people to work. Yes, they are, but are they putting them to work at the kind of pay scale that allows them to raise their family? Are they putting them to work in a situation where their health is threatened? And that's truly the case. I'm not going to name names today, but we've had plenty of headlines about dangerous working conditions, and we certainly have a workforce that is underpaid. We certainly have a workforce that is underpaid. So I would caution you on jumping on board with this preemption bill that does not allow local governments to have any standards for their workforce. And again, I point out to you, this is often the case in companies, corporations that have been richly rewarded for coming here. We've given them tax breaks, and tax credits, and made it very attractive to come here. What's not attractive is when our workforce is treated poorly. And federal law does not address all of these circumstances. That's why localities would want to move to put in place some standards. So I would urge you, you know, a well-compensated, protected workforce is a plus. It's a plus for the output, for the employee participation and performance. It is a plus for the families who expect their loved ones coming home without carpal tunnel syndrome or without all of those repetitive work injuries that happen in these places that run lines like, 60 miles an hour. I've been in some of those places, and I know that work. And a workforce that is treated fairly, given dignity on the job, and a voice in their working conditions, and the ability of local governments to protect them, that's a plus, because a well-compensated, well-managed workforce means stronger families, means people get a job and stay in that job, and not constantly trying to scrape together a few more pennies on another job and move. And it's a situation where if we do the right thing, we have employees that are satisfied and protected. We have employees' families that are well rewarded, and we have when these families and this workforce thrives, our economy thrives. And that should be what we're all dedicated to. I say to you, this preemption bill is not the answer, and I would urge you to vote no on Senate Bill 331. Thank you. If there are no questions, I will yield.
You do have a question.
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will you yield?
I yield.
Isn't it true that if this bill is passed, or not passed, passed, that things that happened in California and other places where warehouse workers were told they could not go to the bathroom, wouldn't the businesses continue to be able to do that?
Well, it would prohibit. Thank you for that question. It would, and this bill becoming law would prohibit our localities from having any say at all on these questions, on these metrics that the companies are putting on the workers. It would prohibit that at the local level. That's exactly what it would do, yes.
And isn't it true that some of the Georgia companies already do that and tell you can't have a bathroom break, wait until your lunch break?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I would further point out that the companies that are engaging in abusive practices across the nation are here in our state as well. And I'll tell you what, if you just scratch the surface in your district, you've got plenty of folks that are not fond of the overreach of big corporate power. They're not fond of it. They understand that it poses a threat, and there could be a time and a place where local officials would want to have a say in how people are being treated in that workforce. So this would prohibit that. This would tie the hands of local officials.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. And the author did not speak to the amendment number 1. I know he's second signer on that amendment. That may be something that you want to understand as well. When I'm sure he'll explain that when he comes to the well again. Thank you. I yield.
Just as a point of reference, the Secretary is indicating that they do not see an amendment filed. Stand at ease. Chair recognizes the senator from the 6th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have been a small business owner for almost a decade now, and so I know kind of the balance and how precarious it can be when, you know, you're trying to figure out how you're going to pay people, how you're going to provide health insurance and the like. So I get it in terms of business. But all we ever talk about is that we're the #1 state to do business. But what does that really mean then when we're talking about passing laws like this? Does this mean we're the #1 state to do business for companies that don't have policies that actually support workers? Are we the #1 state for business that abuses and exploits their workforce? Are we the #1 state to do business for companies that don't pay a living wage and won't build safe and thriving communities? You know, we should be about adopting policies and laws that support our workers. And I think after coming out of COVID, we should know that better now than we ever have before. I mean, we had essential workers who basically kept our economy going, right? While we were safe in our homes, they were on the front lines. And what do? Now we're trying to say, let's make sure that they can't have any protection. Let's go even further. Let me end by talking about the worker shortage. It's not going to be alleviated by a bill like this. It's funny because when I've talked about raising the minimum wage before, I've often had folks from the opposing party say, well, it's a market-based thing, right? Let the market. Well, we're in a market now, aren't we? And so with respect to the workers, the essential workers who perform the most necessary jobs in this state, healthcare workers, truck drivers, right? And we're going to try to recruit them. Why would they want to move here if we're passing laws like this? We put together packages of millions of dollars for companies to come here. Millions. Y'all know that. If we can do that for companies, why can't we think about it in the same way with respect to the workers that we need? They power our economy. They are what keep us going. A business can't be a business unless you got employees. You can't pull them apart, right? We should strive to be the best place to do business, but also the best place to do work. 'Cause let me tell you something. Because when business takes care of their workers, workers take care of business. I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 331? Chair sees none. The chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate your indulgence today for Senate Bill 331. I do want to comment on my friend, the senator from the 36th, who said we should not take her at her word. In this case, I may have to agree with you, Senator. We have labor laws that are covered at the federal and the state level, and they exist for purpose and reason. And we have levels of government intentionally. As an example, in the state of Georgia, we do not mint currency because that is done by the federal government. In the state of Georgia, we take care of health and human services. School boards hire teachers and bus drivers. And in cities and counties, they make local zoning laws. We have lanes for a reason. To say in any instance that we are not taking care of workers in this state is not just a false argument. The numbers disprove it. There's a reason why over 1 million people moved here, and they're moving here from all over the country, because this is a great place to get a job and to raise your family and to enjoy a community that represents the values that are commensurate with our great state of Georgia. So let's make sure we don't take our eye off the ball here. What we're concerned about is everybody in our state. There are no jobs if there are no business. And our businesses and our workers have a great relationship today. This will send a strong message to them that from this point forward, we're not going to let any of those radical ideas come in and disturb the goodness that we have all worked on so hard. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask each one of you for your favorable consideration, and I yield the well.
The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 31, the nays are 21. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 346?
Senate Bill 346 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general authority, duties, and procedure of the Department of Administrative Services so as to prohibit companies owned or operated by China to bid on or submit a proposal for a state contract and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Government Oversight recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd. Looks like he's coming out of his boxing corner there with his trainer to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, my friends, I'm here today to talk about something of great importance, if I can get myself together. I speak to you today as China is on the world stage hosting the controversial Winter Olympic Games that are being defined by concern over data security at home, in your business. Also, the surveillance that's going on with the people who are visiting and the information they're taking from those people as we speak here today. Americans and the Peach State are impacted by the concerns of the technology theft that goes on from China, the Chinese government every day. And that's one reason I introduced Senate Bill 346. China is known for its civil rights violation to her citizens and her visitors. And if you're okay with those violations, vote no on this bill. China is known for and alleged for organ harvesting of her citizens that may be not in good standing, or some of its visitors that are here in China that aren't welcome, perhaps. If you're okay with that, vote no. Also, as I talked earlier, the level of the risk of the use of Chinese government-owned technologies presents a national threat and security to our state, our economy, as government access our informations to everybody in their country, business, and in their leadership climate. It is a risk for our military of the United States. It provides the Chinese Department of information that they should not obtain. If you're okay with that, vote no. China, as we know, has been alleged for stealing the United States technology from our companies all over America and in Georgia. If you're okay with that, vote no. I believe also, and many others, has been said across our nation, that the Chinese government is directly responsible for the COVID-19 virus. If you're okay with that, vote no. Mr. President, I also want to summarize what this bill does. It prohibits a state agency from contracting with any company owned or operated by the Chinese government. It requires that every company submitting a bid for contract with the state of Georgia has to certify that it is not owned or operated by the Chinese government. Institutes from this bill a penalty for any company that submits falsifying information at a rate of $250,000. Mr. President, I could stand up here all day and talk about the violations from the Chinese government that affects the people of Georgia. But I know there's some people here that want to come up to the well and talk about how they support the Chinese government with all these violations that I've talked about. So, Mr. President, I'm going to let that happen by yielding the well and let them come up here and talk in favor of the Chinese government. And I'm going to sit down and let that happen. Then I'll come up and close if needed. Mr. President, I appreciate your consideration, gentlemen and ladies of this body, and I await the proposals from this well from other things. So I yield the well.
The senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 9th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to first by saying I don't disagree with what our Rules Chair laid out for us today, but I do have some concerns about this bill. One is, what is the fiscal impact on our state on those companies that we're prohibiting? Do we have those numbers on how that something so abruptly would affect our state? I want to be clear that I think we should move to less reliance on Chinese goods and services, but I think that requires a more gradual strategic plan and not abrupt policy. We don't know what shock it may have on our economy. We need time. We might need time to adjust. And what about vital goods we might need? Or maybe parts for we have Rivian coming this way. We might need parts from Rivian. Is there some type of waiver built into this policy? And it just seems a little too broad. I get the concerns about espionage, but let's target specific companies who are doing that. So let's target a technology company, Chinese technology. Let's target an industry that is violating human rights, civil and human rights. Let's target those companies. Let's target, if there is a Chinese company that is harvesting organs, let's target that company. I just think this is a little too broad, and I would like to see more specifics, because there might be companies we might need at this time that we can gradually start moving away from as we build those services and goods right here in Georgia and right here in the U.S. And I believe that's all I have.
Do you yield for questions?
I yield.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st with a question.
Does the senator yield?
Yes.
Senator, do you believe that human rights atrocities that the Chinese government imposed on the people of China is less or more important than the fiscal impact to the state of Georgia?
My statement still stands. If that is the case, let's target those companies that are doing that.
So do you believe or support the atrocities that the Chinese government is doing to the people of China?
Okay. I do not support those atrocities, and I think that if we're going to level penalties, let's level them on those companies that are doing that.
All right, thanks.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd.
Senator Yield?
Yes.
Isn't that true that this also involves very complicated economic matters such as delisting, and that the federal government is also involved in these economic issues, and they're trying to navigate through this as far as contracts are concerned, and it may be premature for this state to get involved?
The senator knows what he speaks.
All right, thank you.
And I yield the well.
You have no more questions. Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 346? Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd to close debate on his measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to close by making sure that you understand one thing. I'm not talking about Chinese companies. I have two in my district. I'm talking about Chinese government-owned companies that violate civil rights. So again, if you're okay with the Chinese government violating civil rights, vote no. If not, I appreciate your yes vote today, and let's make sure that China doesn't violate the rights of humans and citizens in this state by stealing our technology and all the atrocities that they've done in this in the country of China. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there objection or agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 32, the nays are 20. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 404?
Senate Bill 404, a bill by Senators Albers of the 56th and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 11 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to emergency medical services personnel so as to authorize the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to retain certain fingerprints under certain conditions and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senators Dolezal of the 27th and others offer the following amendment number 1 to Senate Bill 404 by adding after retention on line 67 and shall provide the individual a mechanism to opt out of fingerprint retention. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to Senate Bill 404 and the amendment that you've co-signed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 404 is to help out our emergency medical services personnel. As we all know, in the last 2 years of COVID, our first responders and frontline healthcare workers have been put to a test they could have never imagined. They do extraordinary work for us, and I know each and one of us in our own district are working to thank them for their great service. This is a very simple bill. As an EMT or paramedic, you have to have a background check done. And to do that, you get your fingerprints taken. This allows the GBI to hold on to those fingerprints, so when you have to renew your license, they can do that without you having to go get fingerprinted again, which is an extra unnecessary step. I do want to thank the senator from the 27th, and this is a friendly amendment that simply says that if someone's fingerprints are being held, they are already being notified Department of Public Health that they can opt out of that should they choose. This is great for our first responders, and with there no questions, I'd ask for your favorable consideration and will yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Does the senator from the 27th wish to additionally speak to the amendment? He waives. Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 404 or amendment number 1? The chair sees none. We'll first take up the adoption of amendment number 1. Is there objection to adoption of amendment number 1? The chair hears none, and amendment number 1 is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed as amended. What's going on with this thing? Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 826?
House Bill 826, a bill by Representatives Earhart of the 36th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to incorporate the city of Lost Mountain, to provide a charter, to provide for definitions and construction, to provide for other matters relative to the foregoing, to provide for a referendum, to provide effective dates and transitional provisions governing the transfer of various functions and responsibilities from Cobb County to the city of Lost Mountain and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations General recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations General offer the following substitute to House Bill 826. A bill to be entitled an act to incorporate the city of Lost Mountain, to provide a charter, to provide for boundaries and powers of the city, to provide a property owner's bill of rights and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Tippins of the 37th offers the following amendment. amend the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations General substitute to House Bill 826 by replacing lines 391 to 393 with the following. In this charter, the affirmative vote of 4 council members or the mayor and 3 council members shall be required for the adoption of any ordinance, resolution, or motion. An abstention shall be counted as an affirmative vote. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th to speak to House Bill 826 and Amendment Number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, it is my distinct privilege to bring you House Bill 826 this morning. This bill does not create the city of Lost Mountain, but this bill gives the voters in the proposed city limits of a potential city of Lost Mountain the opportunity to vote in referendum if they would like to create the city. This bill is very limited in its scope. It's about local control. It's about the right of self-determination. The biggest issue on the minds of the citizens of West Cobb right now are the issues of zoning. It's been announced that the county intends to depart from their existing zoning laws and the existing land use maps and go to the Unified Development Code, which would allow basically anything, anywhere, if you got 3 votes of the commission. Consider that in most instances, the largest investment that anyone has in their life is their investment in their home. This bill is about what may come in next to people's homes, like industrial property, like huge apartment complexes. We should not allow individuals' property values to be eroded by rampant zoning that's not consistent with the neighborhoods. Currently in Cobb County, we have 4 commission districts and 1 that are elected by district, and we have 1 county commission chairman that's elected countywide. We had a single commissioner until 1964, and in 1962 legislation was passed that provided for 4 distinct districts: northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. And at that time there were 114,000 residents in the city, or in Cobb County, according to the 1960 census map. Right now we're getting close to 800,000 people. So each commissioner has about 200,000 people to represent. And the dynamics of this is that the zonings that take place in Cobb County anywhere in Cobb County, but especially in West Cobb, can be determined by 3 commissioners who do not live in that district and really have no accountability to the people in that district. So zoning is the big issue. West Cobb is special. It was the last part of Cobb County to develop. I've been a resident of it for 64 years. My daddy bought a farm out there in 1956. He built a house. He had his priorities right. He built a fishing pond before he built his house. But we moved in 1958 in February. One day next week will be the 64th anniversary. I was raised there. My children played on that land when they were kids. My grandchildren continue to play on that land and play in those creeks that go through that piece of farmland. It's a special place. West Cobb is not unique to the state of Georgia, but it's unique to Cobb County. It's very rural in nature. There's a mix of subdivisions. But great changes have taken place in Cobb County in West Cobb in the 64 years since my family moved out there. It has a sense of community like no other part of Cobb County, because in many places there's a lot of long-term residents, and they may not have had the roots that went back to the start of Cobb County, but many of the families who were pioneer settlers in Cobb County in the late 1830s and 1840s, their families still live there. I married into one of those families, and my wife's paternal and maternal grandparents were from pioneer families in West Cobb. Now, all that means is that the roots go deep. People care about that part of the county. It has developed differently than other parts of the county. The density, you will not find the densities in West Cobb County that you find in the remainder of the county. When we moved out there were 2 old farmers on our road that were still farming with mules. There were more miles of dirt road in West Cobb than there were paved roads. There were no subdivisions west of Marietta in 1965. I went to work for Sears and Roebuck as a high school senior in the fall of 1968 and drove home at night at 10 o'clock when the store closed. And I can tell you, at that time, there was not a traffic light from the square of Marietta till you got to the courthouse in Dallas, Georgia. So things change. Things have to change. And this is not about we're not going to have any more change. It's a situation that you're going to have managed change. The changes that will take place will come about with more of a measure of local input. I made some changes to the bill that came over to the House. As it came over, it provided for 6 council members from 3 districts, 2 in each district, but those council members did not have to live in their district. I changed that. They had a mayor provision in it, but the 6 council members would choose the mayor. I changed that. I added a mayor's position that is elected by every member and voter within the proposed city of Lost Mountain. So it's a direct election. You'll see an amendment on your desk, and I'm dealing with it at this point because the only floor amendment I have is when we made the transition from 6 council members to having 6, and also having a mayor who could vote in the event of a tie. There was one line left in on lines 391 and 393 that stipulated that any resolution or action by the city council had to be by 4 members of the council, which would have been a majority of the 6 council members. But with a mayor that could vote to break a tie, we needed to clarify that so there was not any ambiguity in the bill. Also in the bill, you find a property owner's Bill of Rights. I mean, you may ask yourself, why do you have to have a property owner's Bill of Rights? Well, it's pretty simple, because there is such a difference in development in West Cobb, and those who still live on acreage and have small farms, they do not need to be bound by the same rules that you have in a homeowners association and subdivisions. The 4 main services that are provided for in this bill that the city is going to provide would be the zoning, recreation, sanitation, and code enforcement. On the sanitation piece, most people in West Cobb already have a garbage service that they lack. The bill, as we originally got it, made it mandatory that the city would provide the garbage. The city will provide a garbage service, but it will be up to the citizens to choose whether they want to participate in the cities or in their or keep their own garbage hauler. The last issue in this is code enforcement. And let me say this, because West Cobb is so different and you have such a diversity in residential housing, people who live on larger acreage. We need to create a culture in the city of Lost Mountain that kind of has a Mayberry mentality. Now, I say that those of you that are old enough can remember the differences in the way laws are enforced between Sheriff Andy Taylor and Barney Fife. Sheriff Andy Taylor had a common sense approach. If there was a problem, most of the time he could talk through it and get a resolution that was suitable. And Barney was a little bit too inclined to issue citations. And I don't believe the people in West Cobb believe that a city ought to be financed by fines and fees from code violations. So we want to create a culture that fits the culture of Lost Mountain. I ask you to vote today to allow the citizens of West Cobb the right to vote on their ability to self-determine their future, to preserve this crown jewel of Cobb County. It is different. It's different from any other city in Cobb County in its makeup in terms of the wide range of rural land and also developed property. I ask you to give them that right to preserve it for our posterity. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
Doesn't appear that you have any questions, Senator. Does any of the senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 826? The chair sees none. All right, we're first going to take up amendment number 1 from the senator from the 37th. Is there objection to adoption of amendment number 1? The chair sees none, and amendment number 1 is adopted. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agree on the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 33, the nays are 19. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read a message from the House?
Mr. President, the following message was received from the House through Mr. Riley, the clerk thereof. Mr. President, the House has passed by the requisite constitutional authority the following bills of the House and Senate. House Bill 1362 by Representative Perkle of the 155th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Irwin County. approved February 15, 1993, as amended particularly by an act approved March 5, 2012, so as to change the description of the education districts, to provide for definitions and inclusions, to provide for continuation in office of current members and election of subsequent members, to provide for related matters, to provide effective dates, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 1363 by Representative Bentley of the 139th.
Slogo.
A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the Board of Education of the Macon County School District, approved March 27th, 1985, as amended.
Slogo.
House Bill 1364 by Representatives Alnuix of the 42nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the State Court of Cobb County, approved March 26, 1964.
Slogo.
House Bill 1365 by Representatives Perkle of the 155th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act establishing a Board of Education of Coffee County, approved March 10th, 1970.
Slogo.
House Bill 1366 by Representative Bentley of the 139th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Macon County, approved August 26th.
Slogo.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
What purpose does the senator from the 36th rise?
I have an announcement when the appropriate
Announcement
time.
at the end. Okay, we'll get to you. Chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 22 February 2022.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read your announcements?
The Rules Committee will meet immediately upon adjournment in 4:50 today. The Banking and Financial Institutions Committee will meet in 310 of the CLOB at 1 p.m. today. The Public Safety Committee will meet in Mez 1 at 1 p.m. today. The Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee will meet in Mez 1 at 2 p.m. today. Regulated Industries and Utilities Committee will meet in 4:50 at 3 p.m. today. And the Government Oversight Committee will meet in 4:50 at 4 p.m. today. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 24th to introduce to us our doctor of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is an honor for the doctor today is Dr. Kelly Homer, is an associate professor at the Department of Orthopedic Surgery at the MCG in Augusta, Georgia. Originally, she's from Marietta. She attended her medical school at the MCG and completed her orthopedic surgery residency at Vanderbilt University. She's also part of the staff at MCG currently today, and she is the president of the Georgia Orthopedic Society today. Thank you.
Well done. Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I will flag for you, there's a notice on your desk announcing the Georgia Working Families Legislative Caucus lunch meeting that will be, you can pick up your box lunch in room 307, CLOB, and join the Zoom meeting. We are sponsored by the Georgia Municipal Association today and having a very robust discussion on urgent issues on housing stability, homelessness, and emergency rental assistance that is in the purview of the Department of Community Affairs. So please join us by Zoom and pick up your lunch before our afternoon committee meetings, and safe travels home. Thank you.
The majority leader has moved that this Senate stand adjourned until Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022 at 10 a.m. Stand by. We're gonna make a quick little pivot for the purpose of. I apologize for making that statement earlier to the senator from the 37th about graduating with our distinguished honoree today. But chair recognizes the senator from the 37th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we withdraw the motion to adjourn for the purpose of taking up an action to immediately transmit House Bill 826 to the House. There is a time deadline on this.
Senator from the 37th has asked for unanimous consent to retract the motion to appeal for the purpose of taking up a motion to immediately transmit to the House. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and there is objection. All those in favor of immediately transmitting Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th to speak to his motion. Go ahead. This is the pickle you're in. This is a motion to withdraw the motion to adjourn, which takes priority. So they're probably not going to give it to you because now we're going to need 2/3. So what I'm guessing is the best course of action is to explain what you're doing and just say you drop your motion, let's adjourn. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th to explain his motion.
I apologize for the confusion. What I was trying to do was to withdraw the motion to adjourn so we could get a motion to transmit. I think there's a lot of confusion, and because of the lateness of the hour, I'll withdraw my motion to immediately transmit. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from the 37th has withdrawn his motion. The majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed? No. The ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned.